because you're mad, whatever's going on, you're trying to figure it out, and then that plays into other situations that probably don't even exist. You know what I mean? So, Kheayla, could you go into that, like the effects of the assumptions, or how that can lead to assumptions?
Um, well, I was just gonna touch on something really quick as it
Hmm.
pertains to the silent treatment. That used to be my go-to because I did not know how to communicate um, in a healthy way. Um, it used to be my go-to, but I realized I'm only hurting myself, and it's selfish. So let me shut down to upset him. Um, it's selfish, and when I say I was hurting myself because I'm not expressing why I'm upset and why I'm shutting down. Um,
And could you elaborate on that part? Because I think that's the first time I've heard people. And so, a lot of people will express, "Hey, like, I've been doing the silent treatment. That's wrong." But that's the first time I've heard someone say it's hurting myself. Because usually, it's hurting the other person. So, could you elaborate on why you said that?
so I do first want to say that I do believe in, taking a time out sometimes, just to get your thoughts together, pray, um, and go about it how God would have you go about it.
Hmm.
So sometimes you need a reset. But when I say that I came to the realization that I was hurting myself, what good is coming out of this? How how can I express to him how I'm feeling if I'm silent? Um, and not only was I hurting myself, I was just kinda putting a wedge in between our marriage because, you know, like you said, you go silent and you kind of drift apart.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think
So
I think you end up drifting apart emotionally first.
absolutely,
You know what I
Yep.
mean?
absolutely.
Because I think, like, having, when you have that spouse, that's like your go-to. I'm having a bad
Mhm,
day, I'm having a
mhm.
good day, and so when you cut that emotional attachment, just how you guys form that habit of talking to each other, now you're forming a habit of not talking.
And it
And you
becomes
get
easy.
used to
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
yeah, you get used
yeah.
to it and it becomes easy.
So for someone that's watching this now, right, and that's
Mhm.
like, I'm feeling her. You know what I'm saying? I feel it, but they don't know how. Like, what are some small steps that they can take to try to break that habit?
The habit of silence.
Yeah, like the silent treatment itself. Because you can be quiet and not
Mhm.
really have anything to say, or I'm mad, but when you're doing it for the purpose of the silent.
I think what helped me or what helped us, I had to put pride aside and admit that I was feeling a certain type of way or my feelings were hurt about something. So we have to set our pride aside
Hmm.
and approach our spouse in a loving way. And baby steps. Hey, can I talk to you for a moment? You hurt my feelings earlier when you said X, Y, and Z. So sometimes it's as easy as saying that. We make it more difficult sometimes. So, advice I would give is putting your pride aside and just having a soft conversation with your spouse.
Okay,
And you have to be okay with the outcome.
got you.
You just have to do your part. You can't really worry about how the other person reacts, but you just have to do your part.
Yeah, because I think sometimes you look at situations, you hear, like, two business moguls split. These people split, this marriage split. When you look at it, I think the outcome of you telling somebody what's wrong
Mhm.
sometimes better than the outcome of you not saying anything.
Exactly.
So while you
Absolutely.
dread the response, better dread not saying anything, because you can see the works of that. You can see the results of that, right?
Mhm.
So, Corey, could you elaborate on that? Like, why is it that important to find a way to? Because I like what Sheila said. Like, if you're emotional, yeah, you go ahead and be quiet for a little bit because you don't
Mhm.
want to come off sharp.
Mhm.
But why is it important to let out how you feel?
First, for self, you have to get it out for yourself. If you're holding it in, you're just going to explode. Secondly, for the relationship, you have to express how you feel. Otherwise, the individual will not know how you feel. And with that silence, it just, again, it could be so deadly, that silence,
Mhm.
because your mind is wandering.
Yeah.
You just everything. That silence and not talking about it, not discussing things, it can be so detrimental in three different ways for the
Yeah.
relationship and for both individuals. So you have to just find a way to do it. I mean, just like I said earlier, just knowing that it's important, I have to do this, and finding a way to do it, because the silence is not the way. It's not
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
It just opens up so many doors.
It
It
Yeah.
does.
just it's not good.
Yeah. I think an idle mind is the devil's,
That's it.
was it playground or
Workshop,
play toy?
playground. They said
And,
several different ways. Yeah.
and you could imagine how people's, I'm a creative person, as you can see. So you know how my mind's already thinking of ideas. So
Mhm.
imagine that in that realm.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
probably stuff that's not even going on. But once you
Unhealthy.
adopt that as gospel,
Mhm.
now you're looking at them sideways
Mhm.
and you're quiet. So you're not even addressing that thought. And this thought, then they're looking at you sideways. Now you've put stuff like this imaginary wedge,
Mhm.
Mhm.
like you said, in between y'all two.
Mhm. And the enemy likes to put those images in your head as well.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to put those images in your head. So with that silence, all it is giving him room to create a theatrical theme in your mind.
Yeah.
And that may not even be true.
Yeah.
It's over, it's done. Why
Mm-hmm.
don't you do this? Why don't you do X, Y, Z? But all I got to do is talk. All I
Mhm.
got to do is communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not even be received right at that moment.
Yeah.
Just give it some time.
Yeah.
Just give it some time.
And the enemy's tricky because I've seen, and the reason I'm laughing because I'm just thinking about marriage in a whole, my marriage and other people's marriages. He will allow you to establish a bond with someone else. So you two got a problem. Kheayla
Mm.
is talking to me about the problem separately, you more than she's talking to you, and then you catch me and talk separately, and you'll be doing that instead of just
Talking to one another.
turning that
Mhm.
45-degree.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I think that is very important because I'm a firm believer in, from what I've seen, the enemy will attack marriages
Oh, absolutely.
because marriage is, how God displays his relationship to the church. So that's being attacked all the time.
Hmm.
And I think one step to build a healthy marriage is to one, just acknowledge that.
Mhm.
You don't acknowledge that,
Right.
you don't think there's a threat. And when you
Hmm.
don't think there's a threat, let your guard
That's
down,
it.
and then before you know it,
That's
you're
it.
getting tagged. So yeah, great answers.